Righto, back we are. Fastest 3 hours in media. Beginning to be factual to say fastest segments within each hour of the media. Greetings, my friends, and welcome back. Rush Limbaugh here at 800-282-2882. Look, let me cut to the chase here of this email. Like, the bottom line is this. After reviewing everything that I've pointed out and all of the things that seem to be contradictory, the question is, Mr. Limbaugh, I'm really struggling with this concept that you keep saying, that liberal, Democrat, progressive hate for us supersedes the one major job of the president, and that is to protect the citizens. And this all derives from the fact that each time something like this happens, I have been, saying, proclaiming that in order to understand all this without going totally insane, you have to understand that as far as Obama and the Democrats and the Democrat Party, the official Democrat Party and all of its loyalists, to them the greater threat to them is us, not ISIS, not a shooter in Orlando, not even Al-Qaeda. Because for everything Al-Qaeda and ISIS and the Orlando shooter are doing, they're not trying to kick Democrats out of office. We are. But it's even more complicated than that. It used to be that in politics you had opponents. And there was a day in the way old, long days ago that it was sort of collegial and it was convenient. Now, it's also true to say that back then the Democrats were perennial winners. The Republicans were satisfied losers. And that's when things were collegial. You know, when the Republicans didn't run the House for 40 years, had 135 members, and no matter what, they didn't have the votes to stop anything. Of course, everybody got along. And that was when the Republicans agreed to be the minority party, and everybody in the establishment got to hunker down and be in their little elite club with their assigned roles. All of that changed with Ronald Reagan. Reagan was actually the beginning of the change. Conservatism implemented, which created magical economic conditions. Everything Reagan succeeded at disproved every liberal theory there. That scared the heck out of them. And when Reagan was in office throughout his 2 terms, and to this day afterward, the efforts to revise what happened in the 1980s have been ongoing. All of the great job creation, the reduction in debt, deficit debt, the reduction in interest rates, the rapid rise in unemployment, wage increases, people accruing wealth, people's standard of living skyrocketing upward. That scared the heck out. They had to say that wasn't really what happened. They had to portray that as false and phony, and it didn't really happen. And so that's when we started hearing things about we had too big a party. Our life was too good. It was so good, it wasn't real. It was all fake, and now the bill has come due, and we have to have this major credit card payment that we've got to make. That's what Sam Donaldson and the media kept portraying the 80s. There has been a constant effort, never-ending effort since then to diminish, obscure, lie about all of the prosperity, all of the great things that happened in this country in the night. And then after Reagan left office, the Berlin Wall coming down, the implosion of the Soviet Union. The hits just kept on coming, and every one of them, if they'd have been allowed to stand and if they had permeated the body politic, it would have been the end of liberalism as a dominating ideological political force. They couldn't abide that. They set out on a policy of personal destruction of every potentially successful conservative. Robert Bork is the first name that comes to mind. And since then, any conservative, any Republican who has shown any ability whatsoever to persuade large groups of people has summarily been targeted for destruction and has been, in many ways, image-wise, reputation-wise, destroyed. What this has produced is a 40-year drumbeat, never-ending, of total degradation of conservatism and republicanism. People have not been able to escape it. It was all over the drive-by media. It dominated Democrat Party policy, politics, and statements. Bill Clinton on to this day. It's just worse than under Obama than it's ever been, but it's been cumulative. Now you had the advent of this program and talk radio, the creation of the so-called conservative media, scared the death out of them. This conservative blogosphere, websites and so forth, newspapers beginning to lose audience, traditional network news shows losing viewers, ad revenue in both places plummeting, sheer panic set in. They doubled their efforts to destroy anybody who had any credibility in the conservative side of things. And because there was a lack of response to a lot of this throughout all of these 40 years. Now let's add to it social media, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. If you are not familiar with what goes on there, you need to somehow familiarize yourself with it, because every day it is a nuclear explosion on how rotten, mean-spirited, racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobic, and all the other horrible things conservatives are and conservatism is. And when you have low-information people, low-information voters, average, ordinary people not steeped or devoted to political matters each and every day, reading that stuff, they can't help but absorb it, because it is an explosion every day. It's a never-ending assault. And we have gotten to the point now where, despite all this conservative media, look, you have to throw the Republican Party in here to a certain extent, because they have not sought to defend anything that they've been attacked for being. And that's where it really needed to have happened. We've been defending conservatism here and everywhere else in the so-called new media each and every day. But the people that you vote for on the Republican side have not. There have been very little defense. In fact, we've gotten to the point now where many on the Republican side are so beaten down and so destroyed that they have post-traumatic stress disorder over the way the media has treated them. And that's why there's no criticism of Obama. And throw the race card in there as well. There's a fear of that. But it's gotten to the point now where there hasn't been any response to it. There isn't any now. And so all of these really defamatory attacks, which have been taking place for 40 years, have been allowed to settle in. Some people refer to this as branding. Some people refer to it as image making or what have you. But my contention is that the real beginning of this was the success of Reagan and conservatism in the 1980s and the left's palpable fear that people would actually understand it. So they began distorting, defaming, impugning everything to do with Reagan, like Reaganomics and trickle-down. It wasn't real. The only reason the 80s worked is because the rich got rich by stealing from the poor. The rich got rich, and then they didn't share. It didn't trickle down. They didn't share it with people. And so the rich got richer and the poor got poor. And that's been the standard operating procedure from the 1980s, when it's the exact opposite. What's happening now is the rich are getting richer and the poor getting poorer under a liberal Democrat regime. All these times, people have thought that it's Republicans in bed with the banks, Republicans in bed with CEOs, Republicans in bed with corporate. It's the Democrats today, and it has been for decades. But nobody knows. So you send me an email and say, I'm really struggling with this concept that their hate for us supersedes the one major job of the president, and that's protect the citizens. What that means is, how when something like Orlando happens, when 50-some-odd gay Americans are slaughtered, why does the president not mobilize in a manner that will try to prevent something like that from happening again? Because his job is to protect the American citizen, instead of using that as an opportunity to once again defame and criticize Republicans. Look, I wish I had a first grade answer for you that's so simple and understandable everybody would agree with it, but I don't. All I know is that I'm right when I say it's not that they fear us. I don't think they're afraid of us at all. I think that they're more focused on us as an enemy than they are Al-Qaeda. We don't kill anybody. We don't take lives, but that's what they're telling people we do. They're the ones that kill babies in the womb. They're the ones that enable terrorists to continue these acts by not pursuing them, by not chasing them, by not categorizing them for what they are and who they are and what they do. And yet, we're the killers. We're the ones with all the bias. We're the ones with all the prejudice, they say. And the manifestation of this, I have no better example than a little blurb I happened to catch this morning, which is why I decided to share this email with you, because here's the answer to the question. It's actually a video on YouTube. It's via Town Hall. Omar Mateen pledged allegiance to ISIS while he opened fire on the Pulse nightclub in Orlando last weekend, proving his attack was born out of radical Islam. Yet, if you ask some bystanders in Brooklyn, they'll tell you that his rampage had nothing to do with religion. A filmmaker, Ami Horowitz, who does Man on the Street documentaries and interviews, decided to go to Brooklyn and just ask people on the street who was to blame for the attack in the gay nightclub. One Brooklynite said, "I don't think it had much to do with Islam, to be honest. I don't even think it was a terrorist," said another. Republicans and guns played a much larger role in that gay bar massacre than Islam did. And this is what practically everybody he ran into at random on the street in Brooklyn said to him, one way or the other. Another one said, "Oh, yeah, 100% the Republicans are responsible." Guns. Another one said, "Guns are way more dangerous than Islam, way more." But why should we be surprised? This is exactly my point. This is what people have been told. They can't help but absorb it. 40 years of this stuff, folks. They can't help but have absorbed it. And if any of them spend any time at all on social media, I guarantee you that I could name 5 conservative people that these people believe are more dangerous than somebody who actually shot up a gay bar and massacred over 50 people. And then you have the regime. Let's add on top of this, the regime comes along and bans the use of the word Sharia, bans the use of the word jihad. Now you have Obama sending Loretta Lynch out there yesterday. Said, no, we're going to redact this because this guy's a one-off. He was radicalized, but he said nothing to do with ISIS. He's got nothing to do with Islam. He's got nothing to do with Muslims. He's nothing to do with terrorism. This guy's a one-off, standalone criminal who may have been radicalized on the internet, but he doesn't represent anything. So we're going to say that what he said is irrelevant. He didn't know what he was talking about. We're going to redact his words. Well, you have to put yourself in the shoes of the average, ordinary American who already has, however long they've lived, years of experience of being told that the real threat in this country is the people who oppose choice, the people who oppose climate change, the people who oppose freedom, the people who are for the rich, the people who are for racism, who are for bigotry. That's what they've been told. I don't know, one other explanation makes sense. And so ultimately, here you have an act of terror, and there's been one every year. We've had a serious act of terror every year of the Obama administration, every year. And with every one of them, Republicans end up being thought of by a majority of people as the culprits. Yeah, if the Republicans hadn't stood in the way of gun control, the guy wouldn't have been able to do it. If the Republicans weren't in bed with the NRA, if the Republicans weren't in bed with corporate America, however it is said in ways that they believe it. So it becomes, Mateen didn't even do it. Mateen may have been, before it's all over, Mateen may have been inspired to do this by virtue of the hatred he heard coming from Republicans. Don't be surprised if that's where this long investigation ends up, that this guy had been radicalized not by ISIS, not by al-Qaeda. He had been radicalized by extreme Republican rhetoric. You wait and see. That's what they've been doing. All I'm telling you is, don't doubt me. If you're thinking that an Islamic jihadist can go blow up a gay bar and have a bunch of American homosexuals see the light, say, wait a second, and then they hear their president come out and say, no, he's not a bad guy. He was maybe a little sick. Maybe he was off the beaten path, but he wasn't. And don't be surprised when you don't see a mass exodus of gay activists from the Democrat Party, or even gay people who are not political activists, because the Republicans are more dangerous than this guy. They've had a lifetime of hearing it. We'll get to the calls when we get back after this break.